The air was still, thick with the scent of garlic and fresh basil. It was our spot, the little Italian place where we'd had our first date, a small bubble of intimacy in a bustling world. My heart pounded a rhythm against my ribs as I knelt on one knee, the weight of a small velvet box in my hand feeling monumental. Inside was my grandmother's ring, a vintage sapphire encircled by the fiery sparkle of diamonds. It was a treasure, a family heirloom that had graced the hands of 3 generations of women. Now it was meant for Valentina. She said yes, a cascade of tears and laughter, and I felt a joy so profound it was almost painful. I truly believed I had found my other half, a brilliant, ambitious woman with a laugh that could fill a room and eyes that made me feel like the only person who mattered. Our 2-year journey had led to this moment, and I thought our future was set. But 2 weeks later, the foundation of my world began to crack. Valentina sat me down for a serious conversation about our future. She loved me, she said, but for us to truly work, she needed something non-negotiable. She needed me to cut all ties with my sister, Miriam. My heart sank. Miriam wasn't just my sister. She was my rock, my only sibling. After our parents' tragic accident 5 years prior, we were all we had. Miriam was the one who held me as I grieved at their funeral, who reminded me to eat when the world felt too heavy to bear. She was my anchor, and Valentina wanted me to sever it. Valentina's voice was low, filled with a practiced calm as she explained her reasoning. Miriam was too involved, too critical, too protective. She claimed my sister had been undermining her from the start, planting seeds of doubt about our relationship. "It's her or me," Valentina declared, twisting the heirloom ring on her finger. "I can't marry a man who will always put his sister before his wife. I need to know that I come first." I stared at her, searching for the playful glint in her eyes, the hint of a joke. But there was nothing. Her expression was cold, serious. I asked for time, and she granted it, but with a deadline, the end of the month. She needed her answer, a clear choice. The following days were a descent into a new kind of paranoia. Small things at first. The quick flick of her phone as I entered the room, the odd hours she'd receive text messages, the names of new co-workers she'd drop into conversation. She was working late more often, attending more networking events. I tried to rationalize it, to blame my own anxiety, the pressure of her ultimatum. But then I found the credit card statements. The receipts didn't align with her stories. The weekend conference in Chicago showed 2 separate hotel rooms and dinners for 2 at high-end restaurants. When I confronted her, she was defensive, claiming she'd been entertaining clients. I wanted to believe her, but a cold certainty was settling in my gut. I had to know the truth. I hired a private investigator. The decision felt extreme, a betrayal in itself, but I couldn't walk into a marriage built on a lie. What he found didn't just break my heart, it shattered my entire world. Valentina had been having an affair for 8 months with my business partner and best friend Derek, the same man who had been at our engagement party, who had raised a glass to our future while sleeping with my fiancée. The worst of it, however, was the motive. The affair wasn't a simple act of infidelity. It was a calculated financial move. They were planning to start their own company, a venture that required significant capital. They had researched the value of my grandmother's ring and discovered it was worth far more than I had ever imagined, enough to fund their new business. The ultimatum about Miriam? It was a part of the plan, a cruel, strategic maneuver to isolate me. Miriam was the only person who might have seen through Valentina's facade, the one person who might have asked the right questions. With her out of the picture, Valentina could manipulate me more easily. Their plan was simple. After the wedding, she would suggest selling the ring for a down payment on a house or an investment, and the proceeds would fund their new company. She had even had the ring appraised by 3 different jewelers, meticulously planning the heist. I sat in my car, the folder of evidence on my lap, the world outside a blurry mess of color and motion. The woman I was going to marry, the woman I thought I knew, had been planning to rob me, Not just of money, but of my family, my trust, my future. The betrayal was staggering. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed to process, to plan my next move. But Valentina's impatience grew. She began to press me for a decision on Miriam, even planning a romantic weekend getaway to reconnect before our big decisions. It was her urgency that made me realize what I had to do. First, I called Miriam. I told her everything. She wept, not just for the betrayal, but for the guilt of not telling me her own suspicions. She had noticed how Valentina would subtly steer conversations away from family, the comments she'd make about our close relationship. She had seen the cracks I had chosen to ignore. Next, I called my lawyer. What I was about to do had to be done right. I arranged to meet Valentina at the same restaurant where I had proposed. She arrived looking radiant, a look of triumph already on her face. "I've thought about what you said," I told her, my voice quiet, "about choosing between you and Miriam." She leaned forward, her eyes bright with anticipation. "I choose Miriam," I said. The confusion, the hurt, the anger that flashed across her face were a symphony of raw emotion. She quickly composed herself, thinking she could still salvage the situation. "I understand you need time," she said, "but I really think if you consider what we could build together." That's when I slid the folder across the table. "I know about Derek," I said, my voice steady. "I know about the business plan. I know about the ring appraisals. I know everything." The color drained from her face. She saw the photographs, the financial records. The folder held her entire scheme, laid bare. "How long have you known?" she whispered, her voice a ghost of its former self. "Long enough," I replied, "long enough to protect myself." While she had been plotting her betrayal, I had been preparing my defense. I had documented everything. I had already filed a police report for the fraudulent use of my credit card. I had contacted Derek's wife, a woman who was completely unaware of her husband's affair. I had the ring appraised and insured, and its return to my possession was officially documented. And most importantly, I had started the process of dissolving my business partnership with Derek, having discovered he had been embezzling from our joint accounts for nearly a year to fund his secret life with Valentina. "What do you want?" she asked, a calculating glint in her eyes. "I want you to leave," I said. "Pack your things and get out of my apartment. Stay away from me, my family, and my business. And I want you to understand that what you did, what you planned, is unforgivable." She tried to argue, to explain it away, to make me believe it was a momentary lapse, a dream they'd never acted on. But I was done listening. I placed a few bills on the table for the untouched meal, stood up, and walked away. 3 months have passed since that night. Derek's wife filed for divorce, and our business partnership is no more. He is under police investigation for embezzlement. Valentina continued to contact me, but I never answered. She even tried to go through Miriam, claiming I had misunderstood. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. Some trusts, once broken, can never be repaired. I think about that night sometimes, the moment I proposed, and how easily I was fooled. My grandmother's ring is back in the safe. Maybe one day I'll find someone worthy of it, someone who sees it as a symbol of love and commitment, not as a tool for profit. For now, I'm focusing on the relationships that are real. Miriam and I are closer than ever. I've learned to trust my instincts, to see the warning signs I once ignored. The most unforgivable thing you can do is forgive someone who never deserved it.